Hello everyone, I'm GregSolomon. Well, here it is Sunday morning and still no word from Mr. Renetto. Now Paul, you asked us to play poker. You challenged anyone who wanted to call your bluff. And indeed, several people have called your bluff. It's time to do as you said, using your words, put up or shut up. If you've ever watched poker on television, poker's a fairly popular game on some of these television programs nowadays. If you ever watch it, you will notice that after the betting is done, and after folks have laid their money in, after those boys have put all their money in the pot, well, the man with the cards just doesn't keep holding his cards in his hand and smiling and looking around the table for hours and days. No. He holds his hand down, throws it down, and shows his cards. Say, the betting is over. The money's in the pot. And it's past time to show your hand. For those of you who maybe need to be brought up to speed, let me remind you with a video clip I'll show you now of Mr. Renetto when he initially challenged everyone to a game of poker, when he challenged everyone to call his bluff as he held his hands up. Watch him blustering and confident, holding his hand up, showing us that he has or at least making us think that he has a pat hand. Challenging anyone to call his bluff. Well, he has had his bluff called. But watch this video clip. Let me remind you.
I, on the other hand, if you're brave enough to respond, which I'm sure nobody will, I'll say, hey, I was bluffing, I'm lying, and I'll pay you $100. Now, let's say 10 people respond. 10 people are brave enough to put their money where their mouth is, not to just criticize, but actually stand up and say, I'm pretty sure what I'm saying here. You 10 people all individually only have $100 to lose if you're wrong. I, on the other hand, am going to pay out $1,000 to all 10 of you, and it could be 20 responses, could be 100 responses. I have a lot to lose. I'm putting my money where my mouth is, all in. I'm looking at my cards.
Yes. Mr. Renetto seemed very confident and blustery in his initial challenge, didn't he? Well, as I said, the money is all in. We're waiting for you to respond. But I think what you don't realize, Mr. Renetto, is that I have an ace to play. That's right. A few days ago, Mr. Renetto, you were having a discussion with someone concerning this very subject out on Stickcam. Well, that discussion that you were having was recorded. That's right. Folks, I think right now that Mr. Renetto, if he's watching this, and I'm sure he is, he knows what discussion I'm talking about, and I imagine his palms, the palms of his hands, are getting a little sweaty right now because he knows where I'm going with this. Perhaps his knees are beginning to knock a little bit. Yes, a discussion you were having on Stickcam was recorded. First, you have been acting out here on YouTube as if you had a pat hand, telling us, yes, Steve Chen has contacted me, wants me to be his mouthpiece, and I'm having this discussion with all the powers that be at YouTube. Chad Hurley and all these guys are wanting to get in touch with me and are talking to me. And I tried to give you a little wiggle room and uploaded a video clip and told you, well, hey, Paul, perhaps some guys are just pulling your leg. I think you're the victim of a prank. Remember my video clip where I showed wiggling you in? But But no, you wouldn't have anything to do with that. No, this is real. Steve Chen has definitely contacted me, and Paul or Chad Hurley and all these guys. They want to talk to me, Paul Robinette, and get my take on what's going on YouTube. And you challenged us to a game of poker then, see? Saying you have this pat hand. You can prove it. You can actually prove that these people are all contacting you. However, during your conversation out on Stickcam, which was recorded, you're not quite so confident. In fact, you even admit that yes, indeed, perhaps you are the victim of a hoax and a prank. Let's watch and listen, folks. Okay, folks, here's the video clip of Mr. Renetto, Mr. Robinette, when he had his conversation out on Stickcam the other day. The video's a little grainy, but nonetheless you can see it quite well, and you'll be able to hear it quite well also. Let's give it a listen, shall we?
Now, here's what I don't mind doing. I don't mind saying that it is completely possible that the 5 emails that I've had since then aren't really from YouTube, even though they have a username and it says @youtube.com. It is possible. And if it's a hoax, it is. It hasn't affected me.
Well, so now we see that indeed when Mr. Robinette was holding up his hand in his Let's Play Poker video and challenging us to play poker with him and challenging us to put our money where our mouth is, holding up his hand saying, "I have the cards," attempting to make us think that he had a pat hand. Well, now we see that indeed Mr. Robinette was merely bluffing. He had no cards in his hand. You hear yourself. You hear with your own ears what Mr. Robinette has said. He says, "I don't know if maybe it is a hoax. Maybe some people were just pulling his leg." See, that's what he believes, actually. So he doesn't have any evidence. He doesn't have any proof. He was wanting to make us think that he did. He was wanting to make us think that he had a pat hand, see, holding these cards in his hand. When in fact, he has nothing in his hand. He was basically trying to run a bluff, and his bluff was called. Now, a couple of people have actually, in the comment section under my previous video, a couple of people have actually compiled a list of the amount of people who have called your bluff, Mr. Robinette, and I didn't realize the list was quite that lengthy. I just thought it was a couple of people, myself and one other, but apparently it looks like there's about somewhere around 10 people who have called your bluff, who have put their money where their mouth is, as you admonished us to do. Well, Mr. Robinette, as I said, we now see that you are bluffing. It doesn't matter whether you put down your hand now or not, because we hear with our own ears and saw with that conversation you had out in Stickcam that you admit that you might even be the victim of a hoax. You even admit it yourself. Therefore, you don't have a pat hand. You don't have any evidence because you're not even sure of who you are talking to out there. That shows me that you wanted to make us believe, and perhaps make yourself believe, that you are talking to the powers that be at YouTube. But in fact, you have no idea whether it's a hoax or not. So your pat hand that you wanted us to think you have crumbles into nothing. You have no cards. Your bluff has been called, and indeed, you have failed your own challenge. You see, we didn't challenge you to a game of poker. You challenged us, and you have failed that challenge. Now, it's time to pay what you owe. Okay. As I said in my other video clip, you only have 2 options. Pay what you owe, or renege on your bet and lose credibility. So, Mr. Robinette, let this be a lesson to you. You see, because I think in addition to you trying to play some poker, I think you also even tried to play a little chess with me. And I admonished you before not to attempt to play chess with GregSolomon. So not only has your bluff been called, but you have also been placed in check. Now, Mr. Robinette, I would admonish you to pay what you owe. You were bluffing, as we see in that stick cam video. You were bluffing. You did not have a pat hand. You were bluffing. You have no cards in your hand. Your bluff has been called. There's nothing left for you to do but to pay what you owe and to leave the table. The poker game is over. Until next time, everyone, this is GregSolomon saying take care.